Before you scroll, ask yourself one question. What if the most powerful woman in media walked into a courtroom and defended the most controversial man in hip-hop? No press leaks, no whispers, just silence until the doors opened. It was day 7 of the federal trial against Sean Diddy Combs. The air was thick with tension. The courtroom buzzed, allegations of trafficking, secret tunnels, media spin. Public opinion had already rendered its verdict. But the trial wasn't over. Then the unexpected happened. The side door creaked. Oprah Winfrey walked in. Gray suit, calm face, glasses low. She carried no script, no entourage, only certainty. She wasn't there for spectacle. She wasn't there to observe. She was there to testify, and with one sentence, she detonated the moment. "He is innocent." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Reporters scrambled. Jurors leaned forward. Even the judge, a picture of neutrality, arched an eyebrow. No one expected this. Not the prosecution, not the public, not even Diddy himself. But Oprah didn't stop there. She challenged the very foundation of the trial, not with rage, but with reason. She brought context. She demanded fairness. She stood not as a savior, but as a witness with history, clarity, and conviction. And what followed wasn't just testimony, it was transformation. This wasn't a celebrity cameo. This was a cultural shockwave, a moment when truth clashed with narrative, when outrage met restraint, and when the court of public opinion was forced to sit down and listen. It wasn't just about whether Diddy was guilty. It was about how we decide guilt in the first place. And it all started with the most unlikely witness, making the most unforgettable stand. No one had seen her name on the witness list. No reporters predicted her presence. There were no leaks, no whispers. Just a sudden security shift, a murmured shuffle from the back. And then, the side door opened. Oprah Winfrey walked in. The reaction wasn't loud. It was breathless. A vacuum of sound replaced by wide eyes and stunned silence. She didn't glance at the gallery or the press bench. She didn't nod toward the defendant. She walked directly toward the witness stand, slow and assured, like someone who understood exactly what she was about to do. She wasn't there to make headlines. She was there to break them. The court clerk straightened his papers, voice steady, but noticeably firmer. "Ms. Winfrey, please take the stand." She nodded, adjusted her glasses, and approached. Reporters clutched their phones. Diddy's lawyers stared. The prosecution leaned in. It felt less like a testimony and more like the start of a cultural tremor. Oprah raised her hand and took the oath, each word pronounced with deliberate care. She wasn't performing. She was preparing. And then, with a voice as calm as it was, resolute, she spoke. "I'm here today because I cannot sit quietly while a man I've known for over 20 years is being portrayed as someone I do not recognize." The room froze. No camera flash. No coughing. Just stillness. She began with stories. How she met Diddy at a youth fundraiser, his late-night calls to discuss inner-city schools, private donations to artists who'd lost everything. She painted, not a perfect man, but a present one. Then she shifted gears. "I know what it's like to live under public scrutiny, to have your story hijacked, reshaped, and spit back out in the form of trending hashtags." She looked at the jury. "I've seen Diddy through moments you don't see in press clippings, the quiet ones, the human ones, and I can say with certainty, he is not who they say he is." This wasn't a defense of innocence. It was a rejection of caricature. Oprah asked the jury to separate reality from reputation, evidence from echo chambers. "We're not just deciding guilt here," she said. "We're deciding whether headlines matter more than testimony, whether the algorithm replaces the affidavit." The air was different now, slower, heavier, aware. Even the judge leaned back, processing, and when Oprah finally closed her binder, the energy had shifted. This wasn't a cameo, it was a collision, not between celebrity and law, but between media myth and human memory. And in that moment, the courtroom wasn't just listening, it was rethinking. Oprah didn't tiptoe around the accusations. She stepped directly into the fire. The charges against Sean Combs are serious. I won't pretend otherwise. But seriousness doesn't guarantee accuracy. From the start, she acknowledged the weight of the case. Trafficking, manipulation, coercion, these were not to be brushed aside. But she asked the court to distinguish between acknowledging pain and presuming guilt, between emotion and evidence. Her first point of tension? Cassie Ventura. I've known Cassie since she was a teenager. I've supported her career, interviewed her, watched her rise, and I believe she's experienced real hardship in this industry. But I also believe that hardship does not automatically equal criminal harm. Eyes narrowed, pens hovered. The jury leaned in. She recounted a dinner with Cassie in 2015, private, away from the noise of publicists and the camera lens. Cassie had opened up about frustration, being overlooked, creatively suffocated, but not endangered. I asked her directly, "Do you feel unsafe with Sean?" She looked me in the eye and said, "No, I just feel forgotten." It was a line that lingered. Oprah didn't invalidate Cassie. She added context, painful context. Not to erase a woman's voice, but to remind the jury that memory evolves, and stories sometimes shift under the pressure of public outrage. Then came the internet's obsession, the infamous freak-off parties, the rumors of secret tunnels and dungeons. Oprah didn't blink. I've read the stories, I've seen the videos, but I've also walked those halls. I've sat in those rooms. There are no bunkers, no cages, no underground labyrinth. What people are describing isn't journalism, it's conspiracy candy wrapped in clickable fiction. She described a charity planning session she attended at one of Diddy's homes. 8 hours of open movement, freedom, and casual conversation. No NDAs, no secrecy, just a house, and a lot of imagination from the internet. Then she addressed what the courtroom had been whispering about all week. Monique. I watched Ms. Jackson's testimony. I heard her pain. I respect her voice. But pain is not a witness. It's an experience. And we must be careful not to let experience distort evidence. Monique had accused Oprah of complicity, of silence, of shielding predators. Oprah didn't retaliate. She reflected. I've made mistakes. I've aired segments I later regretted. I've trusted people I shouldn't have. But I have never, not once, protected someone I believed to be an abuser. And then, proof. She produced documents, emails, dated transcripts, all showing contradictions in Monique's timeline. Conversations, she said, happened in 2008 actually occurred in 2012. Different tone, different purpose. This trial cannot become a megaphone for every unresolved feud in Hollywood. It must stay focused on the facts, or else we are not practicing law. We're performing outrage. The room tightened. Even the sketch artists paused. This wasn't just rebuttal. It was a recalibration. In under an hour, Oprah had shifted the atmosphere. Again, not with emotion, but with memory. Not with rage, but with records. Being imperfect doesn't make you guilty. Being hurt doesn't make you right. And being loud doesn't make you truthful. By the end of her account, what had started as a case full of spectacle now felt like a lesson in discernment. Not to exonerate without cause, but to pause before condemnation. This wasn't about protecting a man. It was about protecting due process. And reminding the world, accusation is not conviction. By now, the courtroom wasn't just listening to Oprah. They were leaning into her every word. And that's when she turned her attention to a force more powerful than any prosecutor or defense attorney, the media. I've spent my entire life under lights, in front of cameras, across headlines. I know the difference between truth and trending." She paused, then held up a manila folder. Inside were dozens of printouts, tweets, thumbnails, clickbait titles. "This is what's shaping public opinion. Not this court, not this jury, but this." She read them aloud. "Diddy the predator. He has secret tunnels full of victims. Cancel Combs now." Each line more charged than the last. The room stirred. Reporters shifted. The prosecution looked tense. "These aren't news reports. They're executions in real time, and every single one hit the internet before this trial even started." Oprah described how digital storytelling isn't about facts anymore. It's about feelings. Viral outrage travels faster than any courtroom transcript. And once it spreads, it's nearly impossible to undo. She cited one viral article, a leak about an alleged bunker beneath Diddy's mansion. It racked up 1.4 million views. Its origin? A Reddit post. No sources, no corroboration, just clicks. But it doesn't matter if it's verified. It only matters that it's viral. She leaned slightly forward. That's how digital justice works. It doesn't need evidence. It needs engagement. That's not just dangerous, it's devastating. Then, she paused and scanned the courtroom. What are we teaching people? That if you're loud enough online, you can replace due process with a TikTok clip? The courtroom went still. You don't need proof to go viral. You just need a villain. And for millions, Diddy became that villain long before anyone in this room had heard a single piece of testimony. She addressed the jury next. Ask yourselves, when did your opinion start forming? Was it in this courtroom or was it before? Maybe when you scrolled past a meme, saw a doctored photo, read a headline that told you exactly who to hate? Then she expanded the lens. We've seen this before. Stars get built up, worshipped, made icons, and the minute there's blood in the water, the same media that crowned them grabs a pitchfork. She gave examples. Politicians, artists, athletes, public trials conducted in private phones. And yes, some deserved to fall, but others were destroyed by narrative, not fact. She lowered her voice. I survived that cycle because I had a platform. I had power. I could call a network and say that's not true. But what happens when someone can't? No one had an answer. What happens when a person is already drowning in accusations? And the media keeps holding them under? Even the judge looked reflective. We say innocent until proven guilty, but we don't act like it. Because in the age of virality, guilt isn't proved. It's assumed. She lifted her folder. Again. This is not reporting, it's sentencing by algorithm, a verdict by likes and retweets. Her final warning was crystal clear. Justice doesn't trend, but injustice, it thrives online. And unless we remember that, this courtroom won't matter, because the public already made up its mind. As she set the folder down, it wasn't just evidence. It was a reckoning, a mirror held up to a culture that no longer asks, what happened? Only, what's going viral? By now, Oprah had dismantled the courtroom's expectations. But she wasn't finished. She turned inward, to memory, to experience, to moments never seen on camera. I've known Sean Combs for over 2 decades, not just the mogul, not the headlines, but the man. And what I've seen behind closed doors does not match what's been said in this courtroom. She opened a small leather notebook, not the binder from earlier. This wasn't evidence. It was recollection. She shared stories the public had never heard. Quiet dinners with no PR teams, heartfelt conversations about legacy, about being misunderstood, about the fear of becoming a caricature in someone else's narrative. He told me once, I don't want to be remembered for my wealth. I want to be remembered for what I built for others. That doesn't erase wrongs, but it does ask us to consider the full picture. She spoke about Diddy's support for young black artists, not just with money, but time. He mentored musicians, Off camera, donated anonymously to inner-city schools, and once called Oprah at 3 a.m. asking how to start a scholarship fund for a teen who lost both parents. That doesn't make him a saint, but it makes him human. And humanity is what's missing in the story being told about him now. Then she turned to Cassie Ventura, not the pop star, but the woman Oprah once sat across from in a quiet Los Angeles restaurant in 2015. She was exhausted, not frightened. She didn't speak like a woman in fear. She spoke like someone who felt invisible. Forgotten, yes, but not abused. She paused, then continued. Her truth matters, but so does mine. So does context. Oprah described a second moment, a phone call in 2019 during Cassie's public separation from Diddy. Oprah said Cassie didn't sound like someone hiding a traumatic secret. She sounded like someone overwhelmed by the media storm. She never said abuse. She said, "I just want people to remember I'm more than his girlfriend." And in that moment, I saw not a victim, but a woman reclaiming her voice. The courtroom held still. Even the reporters had stopped typing. Oprah wasn't accusing anyone of dishonesty. She was asking for complexity, for the space to hold truth and contradiction at once. People change, perspectives shift. Pain is real, but it can also be shaped by more than fact. It can be shaped by time, by pressure, by narrative. She looked toward the jury. Don't confuse silence with complicity, and don't confuse volume with certainty. What we need now is courage, the courage to hold space for contradiction, for nuance, for truth that doesn't fit a headline. By the time Oprah closed her notebook, the courtroom didn't just see a media icon. They saw a woman pulling forgotten context out of the shadows and placing it gently, deliberately, into the record. Oprah's voice had been steady the entire time, but now, as she approached her closing words, it changed. Softer, more personal, less like a defense, and more like a plea. This isn't just about Sean Combs. This is about what kind of justice system we want to live under. One that upholds due process, or one that performs public sacrifice. She let the words breathe. Then she looked at the jury, not as a media titan, but as someone who had been on the other end of judgment. I know what it feels like to have your name twisted, to be reduced to a symbol, a soundbite, a side in someone else's story. She described a phone call in 2021. Diddy had canceled a major appearance after another wave of online accusations. No charges, just noise. He didn't sound angry. He sounded broken. He said, "I've made mistakes, but I'm not a monster." And I believed him, because I've seen the version of him that doesn't fit the narrative. She let that hang for a moment. If you want to prosecute him for being arrogant, for being flashy, for being messy, go ahead. But that's not what this case is. This isn't about personality. It's about criminality. She gestured slightly toward the bench. And if this trial becomes about punishing a symbol instead of proving a crime, then we are not seeking justice. We are seeking vengeance. The room was still. No motion. Just the weight of everything being said. Then she addressed the uncomfortable truth. We are living in a moment where accusation equals verdict, where the louder the outrage, the quicker the judgment, and where black men in power are too often presumed guilty before a single witness takes the stand. She didn't say it with anger. She said it with ache. We erase 30 years of legacy over 30 seconds of rumor, and then we pretend like that's accountability. Her voice trembled just slightly. Ask yourselves, have we been judging the man or the myth we were sold online? Then came the most intimate moment of all. This system doesn't just judge people. It consumes them. It devours their mistakes, magnifies their flaws, and forgets their humanity. She unfolded a handwritten note from her jacket. A final reminder, not rehearsed, but lived. I didn't come here to protect a friend. I came to protect a principle. She looked each juror in the eye. You are not just deciding a case. You're deciding whether truth still matters in the age of spectacle, whether evidence outranks outrage, whether justice belongs in a courtroom or a hashtag. She folded the note with care. You can cancel a man, you can cancel a career, but you cannot cancel the truth. Then she stepped down, not to applause, not to fanfare, but into silence. And in that moment it became clear, this wasn't just a witness statement. It was a closing argument, not for Diddy, for justice itself.